out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back. Let's hear it. Root for the whole team. If they don't win, it's a shame. But it's one who respect around and be all holding. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack.
Hi, folks. Back with Talkin' Baseball once again with Pete Lincoln and Jason Smith.
Hello.
We're all the way up to Season 8, Episode 5.
Yes, and it's a lovely Memorial Day weekend, or almost
right.
Memorial Day.
Right.
The Red Sox season is in full swing.
It's starting to feel like it should be for baseball time.
Yes.
Lovely out. Sox, we will be talking about later, aren't so lovely out. But we're coming from the Passios building in beautiful downtown Lunenburg, with Joe and Deb, our able assistants out there that are trying to make us look good best they can.
The women in the truck, yes.
Yeah. And if you want to see some of our past shows, this is our 63rd show.
Wow, really?
And if you want to see some of our past ones, you can pick them up on YouTube by some process.
Yeah, it's, what is it? It's Lunenburg Access on YouTube and Talkin' Baseball.
Talkin' Baseball.
Lunenburg Access, Talkin' Baseball. So if you watch all 62 past episodes, if you want to binge watch, it's a lot of fun. You get to see the progression of where we've come from and where we are right now. So we're going to get into some other things about the current team and some announcers and things like that. But
first, I've got a little thing I've got to cut in with.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of George Carlin lately. A new George Carlin 4-episode epic came out about him, his entire history. And if you watch him, it's infectious.
Oh, I love George Carlin.
Because you start thinking like George Carlin.
Oh, yeah.
So this morning I woke up, and he always talks about making up crazy, let's call it stuff.
Stuff, yeah.
And I thought of a couple of crazy stuffs of baseball.
All right, cool.
Let's see if this could ever happen and what would happen if it ever did.
I'm up for it. Let's see what happens.
I've got to set the situation.
All right, let's see what happens.
Red Sox are playing the Yankees in the 7th game of the playoffs.
Okay.
They're ahead 4-3.
Okay.
All right. Judge comes up, and it's last of the 9th with 2 outs. Mm-hmm. Judge comes up. It's a high fly ball to right field. Jackie goes back after it, realizes he's not going to catch it, and throws up his hand, and his glove comes off, hits the ball, and knocks it to the ground.
Okay.
What does that mean?
I think, isn't the rule that it's an automatic triple?
Yes.
If you use a piece of
Automatic
equipment?
triple.
Yes. Yeah.
The ball would have been a home run, but it's a triple, and they get the next guy out, and the Sox win 4-3.
That would be very cool. And that would be just like Jackie Bradley to do something like that, too. He's that smart out there.
You think that could, how they would interpret the rule? If the ball is obviously going to be in the stands.
And you happen to miracle throw your glove up, right?
Knocks it back?
Right. I thought, wasn't there a case a few years ago where somebody dropped his glove and he used his hat to pick up the ball and they ended up getting a triple out of it? I think that actually happened.
But this would prevent the ball.
That's pretty cool. That's a great thought.
But my second one is even better. You know, we're not real fond of Garrett Cole. And we're in Yankee Stadium, and it's the 9th inning, and he's got a no-hitter going against us.
Okay.
No-hitter.
All right.
Gets the first guy out. Gets the second guy out. Yankee fans are out of their minds. Mm-hmm. They're going to no-hit the Red Sox. It's 8-0. Mm-hmm. There's no way they can come back. Mm-hmm. But he walks the number 8 hitter. Mm-hmm. So there's a man on first. Mm-hmm. The catcher comes up. Hits a slow ground ball to second base. As the second baseman comes in to field it,
I know what you're
the
saying.
runner lets it hit him on purpose.
Which is a single for the batter.
Single.
Yes, right.
It ends the game.
Yeah.
Game's all over.
But he doesn't
But he
get
gets
the
single, and he doesn't get the no-hitter because on purpose.
I'd do it. I would do it. You kidding me? Absolutely.
Well, would that be great?
That'd be awesome. Oh, that'd be great. Well, even better if you just stopped and bent over and fielded the ball. You know, whoops.
You know, that's how they made a rule about that, because the National League way back, a guy was doing that to stop double plays.
Right, yes,
out.
you're right.
So if it could possibly be a double play, they'd count it anyway.
Right.
But if the ball hits him, what can they do?
It's a single. That's all it is. You know, it's funny how a lot of these rules came about because, like you said, guys back in the 1890s used to try to figure out ways around rules, and that's how they
Germany
created them.
Schaefer, to screw up the pitcher, would steal first.
I remember,
and
yes,
second.
that's right.
And they made,
That's right.
you can't steal
Right.
first anymore.
Right. Yeah. Well, there was another one. I think it was King Kelly was in the dugout. And there was a pop fly near the dugout, and there was no way one of his fielders was going to get it. So he said, and he announced, because then you announced it, now catching King Kelly, and he just caught it and went in the game and got the out. And now, which they said, no, you can't do that. It has to be dead ball. Can't do that anymore.
really?
But that's how these rules came about. Was smart
Back
guys
in
like
the old
that.
days, where there's
Yeah.
only 2 umpires,
Oh, right.
they cut from first to third.
Oh, absolutely,
The
yeah.
whole guy's by the belt.
Oh yeah, yeah. Or wasn't there a guy called Hat Pin Harry, and he had a pin in his glove, and he'd like jab it at people when they were trying to dive back into first. It was a different game back then.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think. So, those are 2 great scenarios, though. I love those.
The
Those are
no-hitter
great.
would just kill me.
Oh
because
yeah, yeah. Garrett, you're not going to get your no-hitter. Sorry.
You're not going to win the game.
Right.
You're out of it. Just like the time Carl Everett screwed up Mike Messina's
Oh right,
perfect
yeah,
game.
exactly. Everyone was kind of rooting for Messina to get it because Everett just, it's one out to left
The
field.
Sox have never been perfectoed
Right.
against them.
Right.
Or ever had one either.
Right. Never had
But
one.
I just said, man, if I were on first base, I'd just
Totally
let
just
it hit.
I'd bend over and field
Whoops,
it.
it hit my leg.
Oh no, there goes your no-hitter. Oops. So Vasquez ends up going 1 for 3 and screws up the
That's
no-hitter.
right. Screws up the no-hitter.
That's great. So these are the things we think of when we're up late at night. If you're a baseball fan, this is what you think of in your downtime.
You're thinking of your taxes in the news.
Yeah.
We're thinking
This
of
is the
goofy
This
stuff.
is what we think of. So, moving on. Something not very cool that happened a few days ago, and I just thought about this on the way over here. Actually, goes to show how much we plan these shows out. We wanted to say an R.I.P. to Roger Angel. Died at 101 years old a few days ago. He was a baseball writer for the New Yorker. His writing career spanned 76 years, if you can believe that. He wrote well into his 90s. And he won the Spink Award in 2014. He's in the writers section of the Hall of Fame. He has an essay called Gone for Good about Steve Blass that's regarded as just one of the great baseball essays ever. Steve Blass was a pitcher for the Pirates who had a great career and then all of a sudden couldn't throw a strike.
That's right.
And Angel wrote this piece about how a star can fall that quickly, just for a mental block or for whatever reason. He also wrote books called 5 Seasons, The Summer Game. He wrote a biography with David Cohn where they talk about his perfect game for quite a while. We're always trying to get people to read baseball books. So look up Roger Angel sometime.
I'd recommend That Summer Game.
Yeah, that Summer
that's
Game's
a
really good.
Great book.
Yeah. So,
Great book.
yeah, I didn't even know he was still alive till I heard a few days ago. He was 101. Oh, and if you watch Ken Burns' baseball, he's in there quite a bit.
That's right.
He's one of the main people in there.
That's
in
right.
fact, he talks about how he's a Mets fan and a Red Sox fan, and he wrote this big essay about how the '86 World Series killed him because he felt bad for the Sox, but he wanted to cheer the Mets winning. And he said, well, that's how it goes in sports.
Folks, there's a big difference between reporters and writers.
Right.
Reporters pretty much just tell you what happened or report on gossip, but writers treat baseball as something beautiful.
Right.
Something that can be discussed in better terms than just stats.
Well, as art, they use it's sports as art is what it is, and yeah, you're right. The Summer Game I think is great, but any of his books, any of his, he has a series of essays, like just 1 or 2 page things that he wrote for the New Yorker every year. In fact, I think when he turned 96, he wrote one about just turning 96 and talked about all the stuff he's seen. So great writer. Go and seek out some of his stuff if you really want some really great baseball writing. So.
Even though they suddenly perked up, the Sox got off to a terrible start this year, with some almost hard to believe losses.
Right. Yes.
Every possible way to blow a game. They've had 11 blown saves, and we're in the middle of May.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Just every way you could possibly lose a game. So just for the fun of it, continuing with our fantasy.
Right.
We thought we'd see if we could pick 2 players that could improve the team. And the first one we're going to take is anybody, no trades, no buys.
Just a free agent.
One person from the entire major leagues that you could have to add to the Red Sox that would be something, the key person that they would need. Mm-hmm. So you
want me to go?
lead off.
I actually thought about picking a catcher, but then I started looking around, and guess what? there aren't good catchers out there. So I think, as Vasquez, warts and all, I think is the way to go. The pitchers like him. I picked, and I may get flack for this because he's a Yankee, I picked Aaron Judge as my guy.
That's you.
Aaron Judge, people don't know what a good fielder he is. He's not Jackie Bradley, but he's a terrific right fielder. He hits for a ton of power. He's, by all accounts, he's a terrific clubhouse guy. Everybody loves having him on his team. He's still fairly young. I mean, you can get him. In fact, I think he's a free agent after this year, isn't he? Or next year, maybe? I don't know. The Yankees tried to extend him, and he turned it down. But he's still fairly young. Put him out in right field, and imagine him in the middle of the lineup with J.D. and Bogarts and Devers and going on.
Actually,
I think he'd be great.
I've heard some gossip that he will not stay with the Yankees.
I've heard that too. He turned down their extension offer. Yeah. So come to Boston. We'd love to have you. I think he'd be a huge, huge difference maker on this team.
Well, to start out with, I said, okay, what do they have? Mm-hmm. They have 3 guaranteed All-Stars.
Yes.
At short and third and DH.
Right.
Guaranteed.
Right.
And I think they have one who is starting to show at second base.
Right.
So what do they need? They need a catcher, first baseman, and an entire outfield.
An outfield, right.
Entire outfield.
Right.
But the one player that, to me, is, I think, the best player in the league, without question, is Vladimir Guerrero.
Oh, good pick. Great pick. Yes.
The first baseman they have right now are just not going to cut it.
Right.
And you need to have someone that is going to play hard in the middle of that lineup, and that would give them several good shots in a row, and the entire infield. They have an all-star infield.
Oh, first, yeah.
They'll be an all-star infield.
And he's a 5-tool player.
Yes.
He's a good fielder. He has speed. He has power. And you know what? He's just like his dad. He always has a good time playing the game. If you notice that, he's always chatting it up on the bases, and everybody seems to get along.
Sort of like Devers.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, that's a great pick. That's a terrific
just having a
pick.
good time.
Yeah. So 2 AL East guys we picked because we see them all the time too. But I think those are both 2 huge difference makers. That's a good one. I considered a first baseman, but it's like you said, all 3 outfield could use some improvement, and I just went with an outfielder instead.
Okay, now the second one, so that's one.
Yeah.
We got a good right fielder or a good first baseman addition. Now the second position thing we thought we'd do is take a former Red Sox. Any former Red Sox from 1900 to the present. We're not doing pitchers.
Yeah.
We're leaving pitchers
Not a Hall of Famer.
But it can't
be a Hall of Famer.
You can't just take Ted Williams or Yaz or Rice.
Right.
But not a Hall of Famer, but someone that could most help the team right now, especially someone, we'll pick someone when he was at his peak.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Yeah, peak guys.
Okay.
All right. So, going on the catcher theme, I picked Fisk. I think Fisk played 100.
Hall of Fame, Jake.
Oh, that's right. He's a Hall of Famer.
Sorry.
I can't pick Fisk, can
No,
I?
you can't.
No, I can't. Oh my goodness. All right. So my backup guy that I had. Sorry about that. I picked Fisk. So my backup guy on that, and like you said, catcher, first base, 3 outfielders. I think those are positions where they could really, really use the improvement. And at his peak, okay, now at his peak, wasn't a very long peak, but it was a hell of a player at his peak. I would pick Dewey Evans. Dewey Evans, again, great in the field, terrific hitter, 5-tool guy, and ultimate clutch hitter. And should be in the Hall of Fame. Should be in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
I debated on a couple other outfielders. I thought about Lynn maybe for the defense. I thought about a couple other guys, but I think Dewey Evans is the whole package of clutch hitter, great fielder, great arm, everything you need out there. And I think add him on any team, and I think that's a great improvement.
Boy, do we think alike.
Did you take Dewey?
No, I didn't take him, but I said we need an outfielder.
You said Fred
And
Lynn?
I said Fred Lynn
I almost
or
said Fred Lynn.
Evans.
Yeah.
I settled on Ellsbury.
And at his peak, Ellsbury was
Because
terrific.
Ellsbury
Yes.
is a leadoff batter. We have no leadoff
That's a
batters
good point.
at all.
That's a good point.
And in 2011, Ellsbury's stats were just staggering.
Oh, they were insane. They were absolutely
stealing 50 bases, hitting 25 homers, 200. If we got Guerrero or Judge and Ellsbury or Evans,
I think we'd be.
I think the Yankees will be trying to figure out how to end up
I
second.
think they would have. Yes, I think they'd be. I think they'd be in trouble. And that's another all-star guaranteed right there on the team.
Right.
So I think you're right. I think we need to improve the outfield.
Right.
Is our
Right.
main. And nothing against the current guys there. Nothing against Jackie Bradley. Great defense. Hit him ninth. Fine. But if you can get an all-star in the outfield instead of those three guys, do it. Just do it.
We can debate that.
Yeah.
When you're in right field, you don't get that many chances to make great plays. And I haven't seen Bradley make that many great plays this year.
Yeah, true.
And he's hitting 1.50.
I know, yes.
1.5.
Yeah.
We used to knock pitchers.
Right.
Because
yeah.
they only hit 150.
Well, he's hitting 150,
He's
right? So-
And after having Renfroe there last year with his 35 homers and
Right.
16 assists, I'm
Right.
going,
Yeah, I know. Well, but we agree that that's the place for improvement. I think
Absolutely.
for the biggest thing. I don't know why I hate brain cramped and picked Fisk. I don't know why I did that. Sorry about that. But that's too funny. I almost picked Freddie Lynn, and because I just think Dewey had the longer, more consistent peak
right.
than Fred Lynn did, I went with Dewey. But
well, I went with Ellsbury because we need a leadoff man.
that's a great point.
There's nobody on
Great
this
point.
team. They keep putting Kincaid up there,
And he's not a leadoff hitter. No. And you're right. Ellsbury had a 3 or 4 year stretch where he was one of the best leadoff guys in the league,
and stole bases.
And he was second in MVP in 2011,
That's
was
right.
it?
Yeah,
So
2011, he had 212 hits. That
right,
year.
yeah, and he had 30-something homers and 50 steals, and that's good pick. So
It's funny. As soon as he went to the Yankees,
yeah, he just did nothing. He got hurt. He got
That was
hit.
the end
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, he got hurt, and that was the end of his career. So yeah, he cashed in on that Yankees deal. That's for sure.
so that's our little fantasy.
Yeah,
How we-
not Fisk.
Gee, yeah, Joe Cronin last week.
I know, right? You know what? When you get older, 8 seasons of players jumping around. So
Okay, well, we're on to trivia time.
all right,
again.
here we go again. So I can redeem myself.
Some of you folks that weren't watching last month found Jason's Ken Jennings streak was finally broken.
I know, I missed one.
I asked him what Red Sox manager had the most wins.
And I did
in
not get Joe
in his
Cronin.
career. Joe Cronin was a player manager.
Right.
So that was sort of cheating because,
Well, but he still managed.
he managed,
Still managed.
himself.
Right.
He used to put himself in the pinch hit a lot.
Right, yeah, right. Or, hey, you go play shortstop. Oh, okay, all right.
Okay, so this a similar question then.
Okay.
What Red Sox manager has the most postseason wins?
Oh, okay. Most postseason wins.
Postseason wins.
Okay.
That's the
All right.
question.
I will think about that.
Okay.
All right.
You ponder that.
I will ponder that, yeah.
All right, now it's time for Fenway Memories.
All right.
What
Yes.
we've been doing, again, for folks that have been watching all the time, is Jason and I have been to so many games and so many memories. We thought we'd share the best of them with you and just recollect what happened, what was special about it, and why it stuck with us all this time.
Right.
So
want me to go first?
ahead, sure.
Well, see, my Fenway memory isn't of a particular game. It's sort of a Fenway memory in general. Now, if you grew up when I did or went to games when we did, sort of in like the late 70s and 80s into the early 90s, it was a far different atmosphere at Fenway than it is now. A lot different. And I wouldn't say it was better, it's just different. So for those of you who used to go to Fenway at this time, in this period of time, or for those of you who didn't, I wanted to give sort of a look about how different it was when you head back 30, 40 years ago of attending Fenway. So it was not, now Fenway is this big attraction, with the streets around it and everything, and they've turned the whole area into just sort of into a party place. It wasn't always that way.
No,
it was not that way at all. Fenway, to be honest, was not in a great part of town for a while. It was not a wonderful part of Boston to be in. So what you would do or what we did, is that we used to park right at BU. Remember that? There were all these streets along BU. There were a couple blocks from Commonwealth or whatever, and no meters after 5. So even if you showed up at 5, you threw a quarter in the meter and said, forget it, and went on your way. And you would walk to the park, cross over Commonwealth, and what was the restaurant you were greeted by when you crossed Commonwealth? The big restaurant right in front of you.
Flask of Kagan?
Captain Nemo's.
Okay, oh, that's right. That's right.
Now, for those of you familiar with this time,
That's right.
Captain Nemo's was sort of like, if you know the film The Warriors, it was sort of a sub-place out of the set of The Warriors. It was this enormous place that was nothing but tables and a counter way at the back, and you'd order a sub and you'd get this much stale bread, and they would just pile ingredients on. If you ordered pickles, it would be 3/4 pickles and bread, and there'd be nothing in between. And you get the pizza with the pool of grease in the middle of it, and that was about all you had for, you know.
And it was selling out.
And they sold out. The place was absolutely jam-packed. There was a line out the door. There wasn't the hoity-toity, you know, outside dining or even the McDonald's or anything like that. This was your choice, ladies and gentlemen. Captain Nemo's. It was the ultimate, like, it wasn't quite ballpark food, but it was pretty close.
Yeah.
But it was cheap and it was big.
And there were still a few sausage guys.
Yeah, there were
you know,
still sausage guys.
couple
Oh, yeah.
guys.
Oh, yeah.
And that's bad too.
Right, well, yeah,
I
that's
used to go
not
by
good.
and yell, "Ptomaine!
Ptomaine,
Ptomaine!"
yeah, get your heartburn right here. Or if you wanted some better fare, you could walk a little further down, and there was Mississippi's. Now,
wow.
Mississippi's had the best clam chowder ever made on the planet. And the funny thing is when you put in your order, they'd ask you your name, and you always went by Raul. Yeah. No, Raul, here's your meal. And he'd trot up and get the meal, and he'd be Raul. So,
I never used my real name.
Never used the real
and
name.
you know what happened finally with that? One little girl was serving me, and she says, "Oh, my dad's name's Raul. I didn't know anybody else named that." Oops.
So these two places are long gone, but if you went to Fenway in the 70s, 80s, early 90s, these places were there, and they were the places to be. And there was also, you know, like I said, Fenway now is the attraction. There are all other things around Fenway, though. There was Nuggets Records, which is still there. There's Planet Records, and there was the liquor store.
Yep.
Now, and it used to, you'd go downstairs and there was a little liquor store in there, and it's not like it is now when they would search your bags on the way in. You could throw a couple nips in your pocket and walk right in, and nobody would care, and you'd have a couple nice rum cokes
I think it
during
was
the game.
required to do that.
I think, oh yeah. You have to remember, these teams weren't very good back then either. Most of the teams were not good, so you needed a couple extra drinks to get through some of these games. And so it wasn't. Oh, and don't forget the exercise place either. Remember above Captain Nemo's, you could get you'd have the exercise. This was when the leotards, you know, the Perfect with John Travolta and Jamie Lee Curtis was in vogue. So you'd see all the people working out in the leotards and on everything like that
in front of a great huge window.
Right, it's an enormous window, and you could just sit and watch for a while. So, needless to say, this area didn't attract the best crowd of people. And there were a couple people you could always rely on to be around there. One of them, well-known, Mr. Butch. Remember Mr. Butch?
Oh, sure.
Mr. Butch was sort of intimidating to look at, actually. He was a very tall guy, and he had dreads. He was a homeless gentleman, but he sort of became a folk hero because he was sort of turned into a man of the people. And he'd always have opinions about things. And what I remember about him is he had funny signs all the time. He had, you know, forget change, I need a beer. You know, something that he would do. But he would be around just to sort of survey the area. I remember one time there was a little old lady that was trying to cross Commonwealth, and he goes, "Oh, no. And he runs right out in the road and blocks the traffic so the little old lady can cross without getting killed.
So he was there not just for the ball games.
Right. He lived there. He was a homeless gentleman. That was his area where he lived.
That's right.
And he actually has a Wikipedia entry, believe it or not, if you look him up. If you look up Mr. Butch. And he was always a character around there, and he'd just talk to you right off you'd be walking by, "How you doing today? How you doing? How you doing?"
The character I remember is the fake nun.
Are you
going to talk about the fake nun?
Well, I was going to talk about the fake priest, but you had the fake nun before that. That precedes the fake priest. But there was a fake priest, and he was a drunk. Yeah. And he always sat in that set of stairs right when you go by the Caskin flagon. You know, that when you're walking by, there's that set of stairs that brings you down. And he would have a little tambourine, and there would be change in it. Yeah. And he wouldn't say anything. Yeah. He'd just sit there and have and shake the tambourine a little bit.
But he had a priest
collar. He had the full priest collar and the white thing and whatever. And if you give him change, he'd kind of go, "Thanks." And that was about all you get out of him. "Thanks." So you used to go up to him, and we got a picture of this one time. You very gently go up and say, "Here you are, Father," and you put $1 in the thing. "Thanks." You know, and you keep walking.
I can remember a couple of times, though, guys would just go by and whack the tambourine.
Oh, right, yes,
Because
right.
they knew he was a fan.
Oh yeah, but he was there every single night. So it was a little different then.
And prior to that, there was a fake nun. And she'd sit there, and you'd think, but she didn't have any indication of why she needed money.
Right.
There
It's
was
just
no sign, help the nunnery or help the Sisters of Good Faith or whatever. She just dressed up like a nun.
and just expected people to hand
give
money to her. It was the same with the fake priest. You just sit there and they'll tap the tambourine. So, and like I said, the Yawkey Way thing that there is now didn't exist then. It was just an open street, and they were kind of these scuzzy side streets. Like Van Ness wasn't that was like filled with trash, and Lansdowne was kind of scuzzy. But you would have the vendors there, and there was this one guy who sold peanuts, and he was a Latin gentleman, and you could hear him clear across 2 streets down. He'd always go, "Get your peanuts, pistachios!" Or he'd go, "Get your peanuts, yeah." Remember that guy? And you could hear him for blocks away, and he sort of became a local celebrity. Every time you went to the game, "Oh, the peanut guy is here." And he'd go, he'd scoop the peanuts for you right in the bag, too. It was this huge cart of peanuts, and you just scoop it right in. He'd be going, "Get your peanuts, yeah." And so that's sort of something that you miss with the corporate Yawkey Way thing that's there now, is you miss all the characters like that. And there was that sort of dimly lit souvenir store that was there too. It was not this gigantic thing where you can run your credit cards through and whatever. It was sort of, you walked in and you expected some guy to be like, "Oh, we have ways of making you talk, sit." You know, it was sort of like poorly lit
the same
thing.
guys.
Yeah.
But they have developed it
Right.
into a,
But remember, you'd walk in and it was almost like a dungeon when you walked in there, and they'd have like 10 little jerseys behind the counter, and that was all you could get. And the funny thing is, with those side streets, remember the bleachers used to be set off by themselves.
Yes.
So if you had a bleacher seat, you'd have to go way the heck down Lansdowne Street to that corner where there was sort of the homeless people and the garbage collecting up and stuff like that. And you were trapped there. You had no choice. You had to go in and out of that gate. It's not like it is now where you can sort of walk around the park and there's statues and banners and things like that.
Well, you couldn't move from the bleacher seats to the rest of the
You
park.
weren't connected.
It was sealed. You
couldn't get through.
off.
Right. So you were trapped in those 7 sections there, whatever it worked out to. And so when you got in the park, now you're greeted with, attractive people smiling, with yellow shirts, and they guide you to your seat and they click it. No, not then. Not then. You had these old ornery guys who had been there since about the time the park was built. "Where's my seat?" "Oh, over there."
They helped build it.
Yeah, right. And they'd have the cigars out, so they'd blow the smoke.
We used to sit in the bleachers, and there's one particular guy named Archie.
Archie, yes.
And Archie moved like a glacier. He just slowly go across the line, sort of chomping on his cigar, and then slowly go back and talk with the guys with TVs.
Right.
Cameras used to be down in the stands.
Right.
And he'd chew over there, and 2 guys could be beating each other up or fighting over something.
Yeah, he'd be way over there.
Over there and sort of look over and take a cigar. He must have been there. I don't think he went home.
Oh, no, he was in that same spot every single.
I can still see him. He's a big guy.
Oh yeah, but they had the red coats and they'd all have the cigars, and he'd ask, "You're over there." They just kind of point that way rather than now you get the smiling person dusts off your seat. No. And back then they just sprayed the seats down between the games anyway, so you'd have the peanut shells all over the place.
They soaked with the hose.
Right.
So it was all peanut stuck all over the ground.
Right.
Well, actually, the place, if you never went to Fenway before the Henry crew bought it,
right,
it's extraordinarily different.
Oh, very.
The paint was peeling off on your head.
Yeah.
I won't talk about the bathrooms.
Yeah.
But they were
they were brutal. They were brutal.
They're better in the Army.
Oh yeah, they were brutal. There used to be rats running in the concourse, and the concourses aren't like they were there. They were narrow. They were about as narrow as this table, and you could fit about 2 or 3 people at a time.
No handicap spots.
No spots at all, and it'd take forever to get out.
And my wife and I just wrote a book about not being able to drink in the stands.
Oh, I remember
that.
Really
Really screwed things up.
Right.
Because then people would go downstairs, miss half the game, then come running up.
Right. There were no TVs in the stands then either. No TVs. You missed the game.
You missed the game.
Yes, it was this. is this very sort of antiquated, filthy park.
right.
And if it wasn't for the great views of the seats, there really wasn't a lot going for it.
That's right.
I mean, it really, before the Henry regime, Fenway was really run down. Remember, they considered replacing it for a while. That was on the table.
When Tom Yawkey died,
Yeah.
and Harrington and his wife took over, throughout the 90s, it was a given that they were going to move.
Oh, yeah, right. I remember
they
that.
moved.
And they were just going to let it rot and to bolster the idea of them moving.
They had
yeah.
one thought of maybe saving the left field wall as
Right.
part of a new
Right.
park,
Yeah.
and then they were going to move it out to where Rockingham was.
Right,
or
and then they were going to
someplace.
move it out to the waterfront for a
right,
while
that's
too.
right.
So, and
And then what they've done to it is make it look like a new ballpark.
it's extraordinary what they've
It's-
done.
It's amazing.
It's really
when you
amazing.
see the movies, the tapes of the old shows.
right, it's a
down
completely
there.
different park. It's completely different.
Where's the Green Monster?
So that's sort of my general memory. It's not a specific game, but it's just a general memory of the pre-Henry days, what going to a game would be like in the pre-Henry days. And,
right.
you know, the teams generally were pretty bad. You know, they had a couple of good teams, but they weren't very good. But it was fun. There wasn't the corporate atmosphere.
That's
it
right.
was people that were into the game, and it was fun.
Tickets were
And
vastly
tickets
cheaper.
$3 for a bleacher seat.
Yeah.
I remember $3 when I was a
Incredibly
kid.
cheaper.
Yeah, right. So yeah, go back and look at some old video from the old Fenway, and you'll see it's quite a different game than it is now. And that's, like I said, it's a general memory. It's not a specific game, but I thought that'd be interesting to anyone who wasn't around for the pre-Henry days. It was a lot different atmosphere.
Well, I have 1,000 memories of Fenway, and I'm going to talk about my first one.
Oh, great.
Number one, August 23rd, 1950. Yes, you heard it.
Wow.
August 23rd,
That's
1950. My dad took me to my first game, and my favorite player, I'm 8 years old now, I've been following baseball for a few months, was the first baseman who was a rookie, Walt Draper.
Walt Draper,
Walt
yes.
Draper was the rookie of the year. I don't think he was. He was a great rookie, though. He knocked in about 140 runs. He was a left-handed first baseman. I was a left-handed wannabe first baseman. And so the Sox beat the Browns 9-5. I know that because I got the box score
Yeah.
years and years later.
Right.
And after the game, my dad knew that the Red Sox all parked out on the street behind on Lansdowne Street.
Yeah, right.
No, the opposite side.
Van Ness.
Van Ness.
Yeah, the corner of Lansdowne
or
and Van
Yawkey
Ness, yeah.
Way or
Yeah,
whatever
whatever
it
it
was.
was, yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
they called it then.
Yeah.
And they all just parked there, and there was no wall or anything, and they would all come out and talk to people.
Right.
So my dad said, "You want to try to get Walt Draper's autograph?" Sure enough, he comes walking out after the game, and my dad worked at Wilbraham Academy, and he had a pad of attendance sheets in his pocket. He pulled out this pad, and he said, "Walt, would you sign this for my son? You're his favorite player." And so he said, "Certainly," and he signed Walt Draper on the pad. And I took it home, and I also bought a package of Red Sox photos, 25 photos. I took that signature and cut it in a circle and pasted it.
That's so
If you
cool.
can show that picture again and lift it a little bit.
That's oh yeah,
Lift
see,
a
that's
little
so
bit.
cool.
That
Yeah.
is an autograph I got on August 23rd, 1950.
That is so cool.
And I still have it.
That is so cool. That's great. And that was a one-year wonder. It was just a phenomenal rookie year, and he was never the same after that.
I don't know
Yeah.
what happened.
No.
His first year was arguably one of the best rookie years
Oh, sure,
ever.
right, yeah.
He tied with, I think, Vern Stevens for RBIs that year. Next year it was down, and then by 52 they traded him to the Tigers.
I was just going to say, I think he went to the Tigers.
For Fred Hatfield.
Right. Yeah.
But,
yep, just had the year of his life that year.
And
yeah.
this is funny. I got to meet him 2 or 3 times at card shows later on.
yeah.
And as I got older and older, I'd say, you were my favorite player when
Yeah.
I was a kid. And he'd say, "Don't tell me that." But he had an amazing distinction of being the one person in the world to do this thing no one else ever did. He sold fireworks from China. One time when he was in China, for the heck of it, he hit a golf ball over the Great Wall of China.
Oh, that's cool.
So
oh,
he's the
wow.
only person
That's
ever
very
to hit
cool.
one over the Green Monster.
Oh, wow, that's
and
very
over
cool.
the Great Wall of China.
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. That is so cool. Wow.
He was from Moosup,
Moosup, Connecticut. Yeah, Moose from
And so-
Moosup.
and
Yeah.
So they called him the Big Moose.
Moose from Moosup. Yeah.
And he's
right.
one of the very few players that after he left the Red Sox, I still stayed
Right, yeah,
I
yeah.
still rooted for.
Yeah, yeah.
So that actually is literally my first.
That's awesome.
Fenway memory
That is
ever.
awesome. That's so cool. Well, you know what? It's very cool because this Sunday is going to be my son's first visit to Fenway. His Cub Scout troop is going to sit out in Section 3. Yeah, right, we're going to sneak down. And so hopefully he'll have some kind of memory like that come Sunday for his first Fenway game. So he's 9. You beat him by a year.
See if you can sneak around and get an autograph.
I will do. Yeah. Oh, we'll do that. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Now it's all they still do park there, but there's about 9 attendants.
Oh yeah, it's all isolated, and
Yeah.
you have to open the gate, and they're all drive Lamborghinis anyway.
And for some reason, they're not having Autograph Alley anymore.
Yeah, I don't know why
which
they
I
cut
feel
that
bad
out.
about
Yeah,
that.
I don't know
'Cause
why.
For years, if you've never been to a game, first in the park and then in the store across the street, a former player would sign autographs for nothing.
Right, yeah.
And they'd actually give you his picture and let
Right.
him sign it.
And sometimes there are very recent guys too,
Yep.
where guys that had just
Right.
retired a year or two ago. Yeah.
We have a picture taken with Rich Hill.
Right. Yes, I remember
With
that.
Rich
right.
Hill.
Right.
He was to the Sox for just a little while.
Right,
And
and
got a
the-
picture with him, and now he's back.
Now he's back. Yeah. And I remember we got Jim Corsi like a year or two after he retired. It was very, very recent that he'd been in the big leagues. And then some old guys were out there too. But it was,
3 times we've seen Bill Lee.
yes.
All 3 times I fell on the floor laughing.
Of course. Of course.
Such a character.
Of course.
He calls himself Earthman. Not
Right,
Spaceman.
right.
Earthman.
So when you go to Fenway for your first time or your 100th time, think about these memories that we bring up because you never know what you're going to get at the park. We always say that. And just put it in your memory banks and pass it on to your future generations because that's, it's pretty amazing to think that, I sat in the same seat that someone who watched Babe Ruth sat in. And,
right.
my son's going to sit in the same seat that you sat in. And I'll just
Park
pass
is
it down.
110 years old now.
It's 3 generations worth of
How
people.
many batters have stood at that home plate?
Right. Yep. Right. Yeah. That's amazing.
It's in the 5th generation.
Yeah.
now.
Babe Ruth's played at that park.
right.
I mean, think about
right.
that. Think about that.
There aren't many places that last.
Nope.
And that's one place that has. And I think it's probably in the best shape it's been
Oh,
ever.
100%
now.
agree. 100%. What the Henry ownership has done with it is extraordinary. Absolutely
Every
extraordinary.
year they do something.
Yeah.
This year they've added a new Nesson booth out in center.
Right.
Every year they do something new.
Yeah, and there's a concert hall that's going to open in a couple months. I just saw their first show. I think the B-52s are going to do a show there. I think that's the first
Well, that's
concert
another
they have.
thing.
Yeah.
They've also turned it into a concert arena.
Right, yeah, right, yeah. But it's a whole other bar that has performers out there too. It's like a double. Yeah, they who is it? We keep seeing the ads for who is it? Def Leppard and Motley Crue and Joan Jett have a tour coming up there this year.
Yeah.
And Poison, yeah, that's right. So,
Right.
yep, it's a double arena now. Which
It
is,
is, it is.
who thought in the Yawkey years with Joe Mooney complaining about the grass
Oh,
that
boy.
those days would ever be here?
They did play football there, but that was after the season was over.
Right.
The Patriots played there one
Oh,
year.
sure that yes,
Yep.
yeah, that's right, that's right. Yeah, who'd
And
imagine?
They've had hockey games there.
Oh yeah, that's right. The frozen, yeah, that's right.
Frozen, whatever. it
Yeah,
is.
that's
But that was
right.
not during the season.
No.
Oh,
No.
Joe Mooney.
Oh my God! Step on his grass and
He had a name for every blade.
yeah, right.
Every single name was a blade.
I remember before one game, he was drilling his crew, and the grounds crew would go and put the tarp on and give it to the, and he'd say, "Do it faster," and they'd have to go and do it faster. Every single time they'd have to do it faster.
he's like
he
a drill sergeant.
He was brutal, that guy. All right. So anyway, moving on to the.
Okay.
What do we have next?
Trivia.
Okay.
Okay, trivia answer now. The question was, what Red Sox manager has the most postseason wins?
Okay. The postseason, it has to be Tito.
Absolutely.
It has to be Tito Francona. Yep.
Okay.
2 World Series wins and an ALCS appearance, and it has to be Tito. There's
he
Tito.
is.
There's
Tito.
Tito. Currently managing in Cleveland, by the way, and the Guardians are not doing so well. But think about it. He had 04, he won a World Series. 07, he won a World Series.
Yep.
Almost had a World Series in 08. Just missed by 1 game in 08. And
I thought it was very unfairly dismissed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Best manager in my lifetime, I think.
Absolutely.
Best manager in my lifetime. So,
Both for the fans and for the players.
Sure, absolutely.
And for the press, too.
Right, yeah.
It's to be able to manage all 3 of those is difficult.
It's really
But
extraordinary
he
to
was,
do that.
He
Yeah.
would be able to be especially good with the young kids,
Mm-hmm.
be able to get along with the older players. And I don't remember any particular incident that he had with the players that was especially negative.
No,
I can't
and not with the
remember any.
press either, which was huge. Remember before him was Jimmy Williams, and he used to be this gruff guy, and the press hated him and stuff. Just total 180 from the people that were before him. Yeah.
Just hated talking, you know.
No, Tito was always comfortable with the mic, and he was always very gracious. And I agree. I wish, maybe it was time to move on from him, but I wish they'd done it differently.
Yeah.
I think that's, and no complaints about Alex Cora. Trust me, that's not a knock on Cora by any means.
No.
But Tito was the best in my lifetime by a wide margin.
I think it's the best period.
Yeah, I agree. Right.
Certainly one of the longest longevity.
Right. Oh yeah.
Red Sox managers. Are like
Red Sox managers do not last long at all.
Joe Cronin only did because he's playing.
Right. Yeah, right. That's right.
If you fire the manager, you lose your shortstop.
Yeah. Right. And you know what's and you know what I think part of it too is that I think part of the reason he got along, he was a former player. And remember when he was coming up, he was a high draft pick and he was going to be a superstar. Yeah. And it never quite panned out. He had a bunch of health issues and he never quite panned out he was like a fifth infielder kind of guy. He was sort of an off the bench guy. He was never really a starter. So I think he empathized with the players when they were going badly because he'd been through it before. I think that was a big part
and more
of it.
than that, his dad played.
Right.
That's why he's called Tito.
So he grew up. So he grew up in those days. Yeah. Right.
Probably hanging around the dugouts when he was 6.
Right. Sure.
So he understood the game from
He knew the dynamics and the nuances of. Managing isn't just on the field; it's off the field too. That's just as important. Keep that in mind. So.
And it still kills me. They're not doing as much as they used to, but they used to have the manager had to come on. They do it in most of the sports. As soon as the game is over, he has to walk up on stage and answer questions from reporters.
Right.
You don't always feel like doing that.
No.
If the guy just hit a walk-off grand slam against you,
you're not in the mood.
Really not in the mood.
You're not in the mood
some
at all.
question of some Poindexter that can't never play ball.
Right.
You know? But he handled it well.
He did. So, finally we're going to move on to our topic at hand. So, speaking of reporters and asking questions.
The people that watch ball games don't realize how much time you spend in your living rooms with announcers.
Right.
How many hours did we spend with Jerry Remy?
I said
with Orsillo, with Kurt Gowdy, with Ned Martin.
Yep.
They became part of your family.
They did. I remember when I said outside of my family, probably Jerry Remy and Joe Castiglione are the two voices I've heard most often in my life, outside of my family. Think about that. I mean, that's pretty profound.
Well, you left home young.
Well, yeah, I did. And I listened young too. Yes, I do remember the Ken Coleman days. So I started pretty young.
So what we thought we might do is just talk about the Red Sox announcers. Right. Everyone, of course, misses Jerry Remy dreadfully, and the Remy Orsillo years were golden.
They absolutely were.
They won't be matched.
No.
And so you can't expect what's happening since
to
replicate that.
Right. That was broadcasting at its finest right there.
Right.
Yes, I think it really was.
Especially for real fans.
Right.
Because real fans don't need announcers.
See, that's the thing I was talking about that with my wife the other night and we were talking about it before, is that a lot of the time we just turn down the volume and watch.
Right.
We don't need to be told. There's a thing up in the corner that tells you the count, the outs, the score. I don't need to be told that. Now, radio is different. Radio, you need that information, but television, you don't. And you can see what's happening. So unless it's some extraordinary play that needs, further discussion or anything like that, you know what's going on in the game. You know exactly what's going on.
When we go out to eat in a restaurant, I try to sit where I can see the TV, and you can't hear it.
You can't hear it, absolutely. But you know what's going on.
It says in the corner.
Right.
Score the game.
Oh, yeah.
Who's up? Balls and strikes.
Oh, yeah. So
absolutely. Chow, 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 lobster, lobster, lobster.
Right, look, it's 3-2. All right, there we go.
You don't need someone to tell you the count.
True. Right, absolutely. So, and to be honest, I think, I'm not trying to be negative here, but I think that is something that O'Brien has never quite gotten over his radio days.
Yep.
Radio, you need that info. TV, you don't. And I think he does that way too much. Tell the score, the outs, the circumstances. We know it. It's in the corner. We don't need it told every 30 seconds.
Right.
So,
well, Dave O'Brien is what we have.
Right.
It's his 7th year. And one of the reasons I think that Orsillo was let go was that he was their radio voice for 9 years. They liked him. He certainly was good for radio.
Right.
He's got a comfortable voice
Right,
to
oh,
listen
for sure,
to.
yeah.
And he's well spoken.
Yeah, he is.
And I think that he said, if I'm not signed for TV, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I think it was a make or break.
Yeah.
And they wanted to keep him, so they signed him for television. I agree. I think that was what happened.
So he's certainly a comfortable announcer to listen to, but if you listen to stations around the country, because you can do that on TV now, he doesn't stand out.
No, I don't think so. I mean, and if you get the MLB package, crazy people like we do, we have the MLB package. It's sort of. You can listen to some other broadcasting teams, and there are some good ones, and there are some bad ones too. But you're right. I think O'Brien's just sort of vanilla, middle of the road.
Right.
Doesn't say much of anything to make waves or anything. I think he sort of defers to the color guys to make a lot of the opinions and stuff like that.
He's certainly not funny.
No, he tries to be, but I don't think
he's not funny.
He's not funny like the way Orsillo was. I don't think he doesn't have that natural sense of humor.
And he talks very little about himself.
Right. Yes.
You're right. I like when announcers talk about
Oh,
himself.
absolutely. The best Jerry and Dodd stories where they ragged on each other for their personal lives.
You think O'Brien would eat a grasshopper?
No, of course
No, of
not.
course
Never. No.
Or if the pizza got thrown, he would.
They would just kind of blow it off and whatever. But I love stories like that.
Right.
Think about the best moments that you've watched broadcasting. They have nothing to do with the game. It's all about the craziness that they wander into conversations or things happen in the stands or things like that. And so when it comes to announcing, I think it's, I don't know, some people they want them to talk about the game. I'm the opposite. I don't want to hear about the game most of the time. If something weird happens, there's a bad call or there's some extraordinary thing, okay, talk about it. But when it's 8-0 in the 8th inning and it's a bad loss and whatever, you need to keep the troops entertained.
Right.
Talk about, so what are you going to say if they're losing 8-0? Oh, they stunk tonight. Okay, that's insightful.
Well, so they have color men. And this year, they decided to have pretty much any color man that
A rotating crew, as they say.
Rotating, but the rotation keeps getting larger.
Yeah,
and
I think
larger.
every 3 games it changes.
So
Yeah.
let's take a couple.
Yeah.
I think Eckersley, of course, is the one that's been around the longest.
Yeah, Eckersley, and I think he's just, I think he's fun. I think he tells it like it is.
He's been there 20 years.
Yeah, yes,
20
it's
years.
amazing.
But you know what's interesting? When he started out, everybody was into his language.
Right.
High cheese.
High cheese and
moss.
and the 3-run Johnson or something like that.
But in 20 years, it just becomes language that I totally understand.
Right.
Because he doesn't amplify that.
And other people use it too.
But he hasn't
Right.
come up with any new ones.
No, it's all the
So
same
that's
stuff.
the same
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, that had a hair on it. Is
Yeah,
what he
so
says.
you don't go, wow, what did it mean by that?
Yeah, yep, you know exactly what he's saying.
I remember way back there was a lexicon to be in the paper of X.
Yeah, Eckisms. Yeah,
That's
right.
all the things he used to say.
Eckisms.
It's just the way he talks.
And now
It's his
everybody knows.
personality,
Everybody
you know?
knows him now. Everybody knows exactly what he's talking about. And I think I think he's really good compared to some of the other color guys out there. But believe me, some of the color guys are pretty colorless when you watch some of the other broadcasts. They really
And he roots for the pitchers.
Oh, of course he does.
I gotta have
I gotta
that.
have that
I gotta have
pitch.
that.
I gotta have that pitch. Come on.
And he's very frank about himself. He said he never relaxed and enjoyed a game.
Right. He was always so
on
wound up.
edge.
Yep, he was so
Always.
wound up. That's what gave him his edge.
Yep.
And he talks a lot of, in fact, he said the other night, yeah, I did some things I wasn't proud of on the field, yelling at umps and things like that.
That's right.
He's sort of mellowed out as he's aged. But if you remember as a player, he was super intense. Where the hair was flying and he'd point at guys when he struck them out and everything.
Yeah, if you're a younger player, he was a hell of a ball player.
Oh yeah, he really was.
MVP as
He really
a pitcher.
was. Right. As a reliever, he was an MVP. But
And he's only remembered for the home run that Gibson hit.
right, no, right.
How unfair is that?
But he's always been very candid about he wants a reduced workload. He wants to do a lot of home games because he has a history of addiction. He's been very frank about that, and he says, "I don't want to go on the road a lot. I don't want to have that temptation. I want to stay home." And good for him for being honest about that. That more credit to him for that.
So some of the other ones they picked up, Ellis Burks they picked up, Will Middlebrooks, Kevin Millar, Kevin Youkilis, Tony Maserati. What do you think of that batch?
You know what? I actually think that Uke has improved a lot. I think he's gotten a little better as he's gone on. I do like the rally bandana. I think that was a great touch. So he has and all that. That's sort of like Jerry. All Jerry needed was just one thing to captivate an audience, and then he was off and running.
Right.
Maybe that's the thing that's going to connect Uke to fans is the rally headband. I think he's been okay. I think he's been all right.
The one thing he does is talk about the pitches themselves.
Yeah,
he wasn't the pitcher, but he'll say, okay, this guy's going to throw a 16-seamer now. Or this time I will be throwing low inside. He talks about the grips. A fan doesn't care. Did he hit the ball or not?
Well, he talks all the time about, I'd be looking for a slider this count or something like that. And
it's a little too technical, just like the football announcers that discuss the X's and O's too much. All the strategy that's going on. You don't really care.
And unless you have the board in front of you, you can't tell.
I don't understand. If you're sitting 50 feet away like that, or even with a screen, how do you know what pitch he's throwing?
I don't know.
How do they tell?
I have no idea.
They keep track of it.
They can do it, I guess. I don't know.
And then, they got the little box and all that, which will lead me to a comment I've got to make. Tom Caron, we've got to mention, because Tom Caron is not a regular announcer. He's one of the home guys. But he has been around with them for 27 years.
Amazing. It's a 27 years.
Two more than Yastrzemski.
Right.
27 years.
27 years he's been with the team.
He usually is Mr. Smooth, Mr. Cool. He had Rogaine plugs put in. He never gets excited.
Until
the bases were loaded, 3-2 count on Powiecki, and the pitch was called a third strike to end the inning, which was because they have the little machine
box,
now, and Caron went out. He went mental.
The pitch almost hit his shoes, and it got called strike 3.
Out of
and
his
he
mind.
He went on this huge rant at the end of the game about how everyone in the park knows it's a ball except for the umpire, and he's the one guy that needs to know.
See this little machine right here in my hand? Everyone has one of these except the guy
except the guy making the call.
He was shouting.
And they had the replay of the catcher grimacing because the catcher knew that it was a bad pitch, and the ump called.
I was hoping I could get that off YouTube.
And he was right.
I wanted to put it on this show.
He was right, though. He was 100% on the money. How come the ump is the only guy that doesn't have technology?
I've never seen him do that before.
He went totally nuts.
Nope.
That was
out of his mind.
That was a well-timed rant. I mean, it was great.
Powiecki got thrown out.
And Cora got thrown out. And there's the whole robo-ump discussion happened again. And if you look at the little replay, there's the box, and the pitch is way down here. It wasn't even close.
And they said, he's been doing such a great job tonight, but on a 3-2 count with the bases loaded and 2 outs, when do you make your first horrible call?
Right, exactly. Well,
and it changed the game.
And it totally changed. They ended up losing by 1 run. Remember that? It was a 1-run game.
So that it was just funny.
Yeah.
They got some other guys I like that they have around. I think I like Jim Webster.
Oh, I think he's very good. Yeah, I think he's very good.
As opposed to all the chicks they had out there all the time.
I think it's not about just a chick. It's just I think he just has a rapport with them. And he jumps in the conversations and he takes their jokes well, and they just send him everywhere. He doesn't care. They rag on him about being out in the rain all the time.
Well, I meant by chick, someone that had to get her hair just right before she came on, and he doesn't care.
I don't. Maybe he has a hair guy before that. I don't know. Maybe he does. I have no idea. But I know like Jim Rice has been there almost 20 years.
I like Rice, but the thing about Rice is he has a speech pattern just like Obama.
Yes,
it's called machine gun.
Right.
If it's a ball, you shouldn't be swinging.
Yeah.
And then he stops and he shuts his mouth tight and looks straight at the camera.
Right.
Back in my day, we never swung at anything that was outside.
It's like
trouble with this team is they swing at too many pitches outside.
And what he says is right. It's just
his style of speech is so
and
strange.
The funny thing is he's from South Carolina, and there's no Southern drawl. It's like it's faster than a New England talk.
I think he's in South Carolina for 2 weeks.
Maybe.
He lives here now.
Right. Yeah. But you're right. It's just a very clipped style.
And the thing that's so interesting to me is when he came up, there was still a lot of black prejudice in the league.
Right.
And he didn't get along with the press. He wasn't he wasn't a favorite of the fans. The fact that it took him so long to get into the Hall of Fame was because he was so negative. And now, all of a sudden, he's Mr. Nice Guy.
I know.
He loves to talk to people. His jokes around with him. And he also has the most expensive wardrobe in the entire New England area.
Yes, he does. He does.
And
he always has the great suits on.
I heard he broke the record. He had a golf ball 500 yards.
Really? I'm not surprised. Well, he could break a bat just with a swing. I mean, he's a strong guy.
He checked his swing and broke his bat. Checked his swing and broke the bat.
That's a strong dude. I mean, really.
He's entertaining.
He is. Yeah, he is.
Because his style and and the other guys are sort of slopping around. Millar comes in,
Millar has his polo shirt
cowboy
on.
outfit on. And here's this guy looked ready to go to the prom.
Oh, we're running short. We have 5 minutes left. Wow, we're running short on time. But it's hard to believe Rice has been there 20 years.
Yes, he has.
And Wakefield's been there over a decade now, too.
Yep.
And
Wakefield's pretty good, too.
He is. He is, yeah. And they've added, I think, I like what I've seen of Will Middlebrook so far. He had a podcast out in San Diego.
Really?
So he has experience doing
You like it because of his wife.
Well, I'm not going to complain if Jenny wants to make an appearance once in a while. I'm not going to complain. Good for him. Marrying up, good for you, Will.
I don't like Tony, though.
No. Well, the thing is, Tony Masserotti's whole shtick, if you listen to The Hub, which I generally don't,
There's this picture
is
there.
he's Mr. Negativity. And you can't do that when you're announcing a game.
Yeah.
So his whole shtick is gone, and he just doesn't have an announcer's voice either. Yeah. Oh my God, it's this sort of high pitched whine. I just I'm not big on Tony Maz.
No, some people just don't have the face for TV or the voice for TV.
Yeah. Right.
And on the radio, that's sort of the thing. For a long time, there were shows that these talk shows on the radio where they just knock everybody.
Oh, of course, because it gets callers. People call in and say,
I agree with you. Or just to call, just like you do on your website.
Oh, of course, yeah. There's it's funny. There's I want to say it's about 10 times more traffic when they're not doing well than when they are doing well.
They are.
People love to be negative because it's easier to be negative and point out flaws than it is to be positive.
Right.
And that's how we call it clickbait. That's what we call it, the clickbait journalists. So.
Well, right now the Sox are in the middle of a 6-game winning streak.
Yes, they've turned it around.
We know that this show runs for a month, and what we say now, a month from now, will be pretty stale dated.
Right.
So we try not to talk about specific things
that
in a month people have forgotten about. But I get the sense, so see how this prediction works, I get the sense that they're going to be starting to hit twice as well as they are now.
Oh, the offense is starting to click. Finally, it's coming together.
The three monsters in the middle are almost scary right now. Devers is becoming a super.
Lock him up, Henry. Lock him up. Give him a deal. Give him a 10-year deal. Lock him up.
Bogarts has been super solid.
JD's been terrific.
And JD is out of his mind.
Right, yeah.
Right. I think at the present he's hitting
360 something. Yeah. And Story just hit 5 homers in a week. So he's starting to click. And honestly, people get on the pitching's been fine. The problem, people got on the pitching because there were all these games that they supposedly blew. Well, guess what? If you're bringing in your pitchers and every game is 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, every game is a tie or a 1-run game, bad things are going to happen when you're not hitting. That's just how it goes.
They've blown 11 saves.
Right.
But
all of April they had nothing but 1-run games. That's going to happen.
So anyway, we'll see how the prediction goes.
So we're gonna wrap it up. Actually,
okay,
2 minutes left. Yeah.
So we'll be back next month with a new topic.
Next month with we'll continue announcers and see how those will progress.
Remember, if you want to see our past shows, just go to Lunenburg Access and look up Talkin' Baseball folder. And last month we talked about nicknames. They're all there.
They're all there. So go and binge watch and
let's go Sox.
Let's go Sox.
So
we'll see you next
month. See you all on. Nice seeing everybody.
Take care.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back. Let me root, root, root. for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. But it's one who recycle out and be all holding. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get...
Thank you for watching another outstanding program provided to you by Lunenburg Public Access. We're here to serve the community. Lunenburg Public Access is always looking for volunteers to help record town events, high school sports, and town meetings. Please consider helping us out today.